Well, there's several reasons why diversity and inclusion programs fail to deliver the intended results. One is that we take too programmatic an approach to what really ought to be a more holistic, integrated change approach. Well, most companies also apply a minority-oriented thinking in the way they devise and deliver these programs. They focus on underrepresentation of this minority or that, and most of the effort goes into redressing this underrepresentation. While the focus on minority-oriented thinking is useful and necessary for measuring and monitoring progress, it's limited as a change tool. Focus needs to be on transforming the culture so that majority groups, as well as minority groups within that company, feel included. To illustrate the point, there's very little sense in hiring senior women to shore up your gender balance if the culture they're being hired into is not inclusive enough, or a culture that is underpinned by largely male attributes, whether it be the style of communication or the problem-solving style or the leadership style. What is required is a thinking that confronts the culture change challenge as almost a precondition to minority hiring. So while businesses remain stuck in this old paradigm of programmatic responses coupled with a focus on minority-oriented thinking, they will enjoy very little sustained change. Well, it goes right back to social identity theory and who and what groups we feel we most belong to and whose views we most share. But if you accept that even within these groups, people will have different mindsets, perspectives, and frames of reference, influenced often by their upbringing, backgrounds, early development, experiences, exposure, and even when they may look the same, then we must surely all see and deal with difference quite uniquely. And of course, there's a cultural overlay too. For example, diversity means very different things in Asia, and even in different countries within Asia. The same applies in the case of Europe, of course. A definition I like to use is that diversity and inclusion is about getting the mix right. And here I'm talking mostly about the mix of thinking and making that mix work, which links it back to how you engage different people around a common organizational purpose. Focus on the behavior of leaders and what they can do to set the right tone from the top. How open-minded and inclusive your leaders are and how they role model the value that difference brings to the business allows different people to thrive in it. Our diversity and inclusion readiness diagnostic also shows that line execution is yet another weak link. In the face of corporate-driven initiatives, time-poor line managers want to know, well, how is this initiative going to help me improve my top line and bottom line? The business case for change for these line managers is often not compelling enough. Put simply, if you want to keep innovating and growing, you have to access and leverage the best ideas around, not just the ideas you're comfortable with. Groups that are too much alike find it harder and harder to keep learning, and that's because each member is bringing less and less new information to the table and working with narrowing bands of new knowledge. Homogeneous teams are great at exploiting existing ideas, but not so good at exploring new ones. By creating mixed teams where you tap into all of the talents in the teams and the workforce, you're effectively creating more sustainable client solutions and building more sustainable companies. Well, we take a systems approach to working with leaders and their teams, and this means working at a much deeper level to develop their skills around working and getting more comfortable with difference, but also in helping them unlock the value of difference in the teams and the businesses they lead.